Welcome to Love, Life and Energy. I'm Michelle Chung, and this podcast is your go-to sanctuary for personal growth, designed for busy, career-driven women who are ready to embrace their highest potential and not settle for an average, ordinary life. Let's grow and manifest your dream life together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of Love, Life and Energy. Today, I'm so excited. It's been a little while coming, but I actually have my partner, Raf. He's a suited monk. He's actually here to talk about men and what do high value men look for when choosing a partner. So if you've always wanted to know what they're thinking on the other side, how they're looking for women and how they're looking for a relationship, you're going to love this episode. So stick around. Hello, my darling Raf.
Hello.
Oh man, we've been trying to get this interview happening for a while since I started the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a while. Yes, you've been doing this for a very long time.
I wouldn't say very long time, but we've always been like, hey, let's do the podcast episode. And then got busy doing other things, and you've been busy doing your stuff as well.
Exactly.
And we just moved to Sydney last year, so a lot's been happening for us.
Yep, lots been happening. We are in the new house right now. So house is being renovated, which is nice. So we have a great place to live, good energy, and ready to make an impact.
Yay. Yeah. So I guess it's come at a good time, this episode that we can actually record together with no construction and no noise in the background. So excited to have you today, Raf, because we're always talking about business. You tell me off for talking about my business too much, but I'm so passionate about it. And I really wanted to have you on today because I wanted to have women hear from the other side, from the men's side. And
Yep.
you're actually on in my program as well. You give some teachings about intuition and about men in my program Manifest Love, but I wanted you on the podcast today to share your views, share your own story as well. You can even share how we met and then also about your career as a coach.
So I moved to China very early. I'm originally from Belgium. When I was 27, moved to China because I had a call to open the world and expand my horizon. I spent 12 years in China, a long time, and that was a great experience. I was married before. I was married with a Chinese lady. We moved to Spain. In Spain, I got divorced. Then COVID happened. And then after COVID, it was a bit like searching to establish my network again and to connect with like-minded people. And then suddenly I saw on Meetups, hey, there's a book club on spiritual growth, personal development. And I said, oh, that's totally up my alley. So I have to go there. And then the first time was a guy, Francesco, leading the
Yeah.
meetup. And then Francesco
Our
told you,
Cupid.
like, hey, there is Raf, you got to meet him. And he spoke to me about you. He said, oh, you got to meet Michelle, but you were sick at the time.
Yeah, I
So
had
second time
COVID.
I came. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second time I came, and that's when we met. And I was really nice at the beach. It was a nice day. Warm. Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, very nice. And then
Oh,
after Spain, well, we met,
nice.
and then we were there for about 3 years, I think. And then we decided to move on and then
Yep.
follow our intuition, follow our path. And now we're in Sydney, Australia. So it's been an interesting
Yeah.
journey. I've had many relationships. To be honest, I was in a relationship with a Belgian lady as well before I left Belgium. So I had two longer term relationships of 3 years, twice. In China, I was also in a relationship with a Korean lady before I got married. So that was about 4 years. Then the marriage was the relationship itself was like 6 years, but 3 years marriage. Yeah. So I've been around the world, different experiences. So yeah, it's been good.
So I must be pretty lucky if you decided to choose me from all your past relationships.
Likewise.
Right? No, that's cool. As you get older, and we're at this age, we're in our 40s, we're mid 40s, and we've
Yep.
all had relationships in the past. Most of us have. And even if you haven't had relationships in the past, we understand ourselves a lot better when you get to this age towards midlife and learning from past experiences. So, can you share with us a little bit about what do high value men or high quality men, a lot of women are out there, have been searching or pretty much given up because they're not finding men who are conscious, who are emotionally mature, financially stable, and of a conscious mindset or of a growth mindset. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Women are looking for men like you who are hiding out there, they're not on apps. So, can you tell us a bit about what you look for in women?
Yeah, yeah. And before I go into that, because you said something interesting also, it's about high value men. I think men in general, including myself, when I grow up, we lack role models. And in order to become a high value man, you need someone next to you that can help you grow, educate you, and tell you what's right, tell you what's wrong. So my father left fairly early when I was 15. My mom, my dad got divorced. So I had no role model basically where, that I could copy or look up to for growth. I think a lot of men struggle with like men in their relationships or in that inner circle that are higher value than them that they can learn from. So I think that the first part is you need to take ownership and responsibility in terms of your life, your career, how you manage yourself, your finances, and so on. And role models are a key that I think is missing right now for a lot of men. And so when a man enters a relationship and there was no role model before, the masculine growth has not manifested inside the guy to be emotionally mature, to be able to lead. What
Yeah.
does that mean to lead? How do you lead? When do you give a suggestion? When you take a step back? When do you listen? When you give advice? When you don't give advice? So like all these principles are not really being taught. And so relationships can be very challenging in that sense. So over the years, I changed my perspectives in what I look for in women. And the first part is self-awareness. Because I think if someone is self-aware, it doesn't matter if you have a conflict or not, or you can have different opinions and different belief systems. But if someone is self-aware, he or she is willing to reflect on the situation and look at the same situation from different perspectives. That to me is key because you have different values than your partners. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they are different. You have different opinions as well. So when I was in a relationship with Korean culture or Chinese culture or Belgian culture, before I had a short relationship with a Spanish lady. So the different culture creates a different mindset, different beliefs. And so you have a different operating system. But if you're willing to change and if you're open to listen and to share, a relationship can work. So it's never about being right or being wrong. It's about, okay, what is the mutual ground that we can come to together that can help us to grow and flourish? So self-awareness is key. The second thing I look for is independence. I think a lot of guys look for women that they can be dependent on, like that the woman is dependent on the guy, but it's not what I want because then I like my freedom. I like my ownership and responsibility. I like taking care of someone, but not, how do I say this in a nice way? Not, I can't say drag someone with me, but yeah, just come together in union. When the woman is self-aware, she's aligned with her purpose, she's emotionally stable, you can come together in union. The woman does not depend on you because she lacks something, because she's already whole herself. And the guy needs to do the same. So that's what I talk about the manhood. So the guy needs to go into his manhood, but the woman also needs to do the work to have that emotional self-reliance. And then you can come together in union to support each other to come to a bigger growth. So independence for me is key. And I also think that the more life experience a woman has, the better, because she understands that the small things don't really matter, like the small problems in life. In China, for example, people that they don't really have a pension. So it's the children taking care of the parents. Healthcare is not so, it's common, but it's not like in Europe that the government pays back everything for your healthcare and so on. These are issues that matter. It doesn't matter at home if you put the fork in the pan and you need to have an argument about that one. Like these details, they don't matter. Always look at the bigger picture. And the third one that I look for is care, because I think a woman is emotionally stronger than a man. A woman can make the man rest in, let's say, her arms in a way. So if the guy goes out to work and he goes to battle and he's making it happen in the real world, he wants to come home where he can rest. And women have a natural ability to nurture. I think that's instinctive. And for a guy, it recharges the energy on an emotional level. Not every man is emotionally connected with himself. And there's a common saying also that if you want to be successful as a man, you have a successful woman next to you. Because a woman
I was
or
gonna
a
say,
guy
yeah.
can make or break your life in a way. If you're in a narcissistic relationship, it can really drain your energy. So you have to be really careful on who you choose. But if you choose someone, again, as I say, if you choose someone who is self-aware, he or she is able to always be introspective and willing to change. So those are some qualities that I think are important.
That's so good. You touched on so many good points, actually. The first point you touched on is really important. It was about the self-awareness. And
Yep.
I think it's a really good point you said about men not having that role model and that masculinity or the toxic masculinity, as social media and society will talk about this, not having those healthy masculine role models from a lot of people who are in single parent homes, single
Yep.
mums trying to do both, right? And
Yep.
women, I know, talk about this a lot, being too masculine, and men perhaps not having that role model of the masculinity. So a lot of roles reversed, right?
One of the things that, especially with male role models, is a man, in my opinion, is never complete. So there is a false assumption that if you go into a relationship, of course you have expectations, right? And it's nice if a man is financially stable, emotionally stable, self-aware, knows how to lead, knows how to listen. We men, we are never complete and we make mistakes. I think the biggest thing is when we make mistakes, to support us in our growth and not judge us for the mistakes that we make. If we are doing the majority of the things right, let's say, so if 80% everything is good, there's going to be 20%, there's always room for growth. And the relationship, in my opinion, is also designed to grow, not exist, and be open for that. And that applies to men as that applies to women. And then again, if you're self-aware, you can have open conversations on difficult subjects and topics. And when you have a conversation about a subject or a topic, never make it about the person. It's never about you are like this or you are like that. No, it's just, okay, we are different here. We have different beliefs. We have different values. We have different a culture. How do we solve this together? It's not that you are wrong or the other person is right. It's just a difference in culture or understanding. How do we solve this? And then there come to a point where there are issues that cannot be solved. Maybe you've been walking with someone on the journey for a couple of years, and then it's also time to move on. So you have to
Yeah.
have an open awareness that relationships are fluid. Every day, almost, you talk to a new person because the other person has new self-awareness. And so you have to keep adjusting, keep realigning yourself. Yeah.
That's a good point that every day you almost talk to a new person, because even those changes are subtle and incremental, they do happen if you're on a growth mindset and a growth path. And there's something interesting that you said, and I also want to highlight it, is that men and women, we're not perfect. We're also on our journey. And women are looking for those men who are a little bit more ahead on their journey, because a lot of men, honestly, are not, or are not interested in, they don't have this same amount of emotional intelligence or development. So, how can women find a man who is on the journey, forgive and respect that he makes mistakes, respect him unconditionally? How can women actually identify that kind of man when we have this massive checklist normally of
Yeah.
he's got to be tall and handsome and wealthy, and maybe not wealthy, but at least financially stable, to the point that you're not mothering or child supporting someone in your relationship? What are some tips or advice or insight that you can give for women?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a big question. So if I forget things, then please feel free to add on, because it's an important topic also. And I think the first question is that you need to reflect as a woman, equally for guys, but as a woman, is, are you on your own journey? Are you living a life according to your own path, according to your own purpose, according to your own passion? Are you living the journey towards fulfilling your potential as an individual? That is the primary thing, because out of that one, you make decisions that are aligned with yourself. And so then you go to networking events or meet people aligned with something that's aligned with your value. Because the other thing is that you say, I need to find a man that's like this and this, but my passion is over there. And so you might disconnect between the guys you are attracting and what you are looking for and your true path and your purpose in life. And I think that's also what you teach in your course. It's to help women to really realign with who they are on an emotional level, on a mental level, on a spiritual level. And to me, that is the core. That's the primary thing. Why? Because even if you're single, you still have to take care of yourself. And the more you take care of yourself, the more you can flourish. If then you can find the right guy, then you can flourish together. So the first thing is be on your own path, connect with yourself, and make decisions aligned with your own values. Now, to then attract a man that is financially stable and, how to say, secure and emotionally mature, my belief is that it comes from your own personal journey. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have your own passion, go to networking events where you are interested in the subject of the networking event, rather than go to an event to date or to find a man. If you go to an event to date or find a man, it's rational. If you go to an event you're passionate about, it's emotional, spiritual. Then you can connect with the right man.
That's what we did.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. And to me, that is the right way to go. And then the right man will come through that journey of you following your path in life and your purpose. Then the journey of your life becomes an enjoyment because you are spiritually aligned instead of just looking rationally for a relationship. So I think that is key number one.
100%. Like we always talk about the same thing, don't we? That we have to be on our own personal growth journey. That's when
Yep.
you need to have that personal growth, because when you're trying to find your partner based on this armor that you've been building up for years and years over your childhood, over your adolescence and teenage and 20s and 30s, even, if you haven't done that personal growth and you haven't shed that armor and removed that protection, you're essentially attracting somebody from your armor to your
100%.
armor. And what you're saying, and the work of the suited monk, is really that monk to monk, or that heart to heart connection with someone else, the soul and soulmate. You're actually trying to attract someone from your soul together, and not from this external armor that you've been building.
Yep. And that's the problem when you attract a narcissist. Typically comes into your life because
Yes.
there's an emotional gap that you have inside yourself. And when we don't
Yes.
fill that emotional gap, we create an armor in front of ourselves to not fill that gap because we want to be successful, make money, and protect ourselves. But then you attract a narcissist that actually comes and take advantage of that. And so these are some of the traps that you can fall into, and you need to be aware of that. Yeah, and they come to teach you a big lesson, and that's okay. Then after a while, when you are separated, yeah, what did I learn from this relationship? What gap do I have
Yes.
inside myself that I need to heal to then attract the right person for me?
Women and men, we go about, and that's why I don't advocate dating. My new mantra is dating is obsolete, because those old ways of meeting your partner, maybe they didn't have as much armor as we do now. Like maybe our generation, where Generation X, Y, I don't know about the millennials, they got a lot more access to social media and advice, or they weren't gaslighted as much as we were growing up. We had to really fend for ourselves, and we didn't have maybe parents around at home to look after us or guide us. Everyone's working, or maybe you only have a single parent household. So we're that generation that, really needs to shed that armor, because
Yep.
that is what you continually attract. And if you feel like your relationships keep repeating that pattern, I know that I did. My relationships in the past did have that repetition, attracting the same kind of guys, then we really need to focus on that personal growth journey. And that's what people talk about, doing the inner work, right?
Yep. And I think the challenge for many women, and it's the same for guys, are also emotional. We also have emotions, and we also have a vulnerable side. We also have a female side. And the risk or the challenge is to let go of that armor. It's a scary thing, right? Because you're suddenly very
Yeah.
vulnerable. And
Yep.
especially if you've been hurt in previous relationships and you go into another relationship with a fear, like, if I'm going to get hurt again. And then, of course, you don't want that. You want the good thing of the relationship. But that armor or that hurt can be solved on an individual level internally. Like you, you don't need to enter a relationship to then remove the armor, to be open and vulnerable, and to then to get hurt. You can be single, remove the armor, connect emotionally. Then the next time you go to a relationship, you don't have that armor anymore because you healed it internally. And that's when your
The
relationship.
baggage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
100%. Technically, we should be doing that beforehand, before entering a relationship.
100%. You have to do it beforehand because you'll attract a different partner at that time. It's a journey that takes a while. You cannot become conscious. You need support on your journey from mentors or coaches or people like you to help people in the process who've been there, because then you can speed up the process of emotional healing, connecting with yourself, and then to attract the right partner. Yeah, it's important. It's important. And at different stages in life, you work with different people to help you on that journey. And so it's a key thing.
You touched on a really good point I wanted to highlight was that often the removal of the armor is more painful than the vulnerability. Being vulnerable is more painful than keeping the armor on. So you talked about following your purpose and following your path. And it's really what I'm defining in the work that I'm doing as well, that and the results that I'm getting with my clients. The successful students who have met their partner were actually how they say, you do you, live your best life. And that's all really vague advice, right? So I wanted to make it more tangible, as in we really need to pursue our purpose or our vision in our life.
Yep.
And then our soulmate will be there waiting, because your paths, your visions will actually align together. Do you have
Yep.
anything you can speak on in that area?
Yeah, definitely, because that was also the starting point of my real journey, is to be on the path in life. And the first part of my career was like working as a corporate expat in shipping and logistics. And so I was sent to China when I was 27. And so I was on the way to corporate career success, right? But success did not bring me fulfillment. I was not happy. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of stress. So on the external side, I had a lot of potential to grow in the corporate role and become successful. But internally, I lacked emotional intelligence. I was not aligned with my purpose or my path in life. And so I had that external armor around me. And that was basically a cover up for everything that I lacked internally. And it was only at that time when I met a coach, when I was back in Shenzhen in South China, that she started coaching me, that I actually became self-aware. Hey, I'm not really living in alignment with who I am. And so that person came at the right time for me, because I started reflecting like, yes, I'm presenting a person or projecting a person that is not me. But if I'm
Mm.
projecting or presenting this, then who am I? And that is not a question that is easy to be answered. And that's why I say self-awareness is so important, to understand and know who you are. So in 2008, in the financial crisis, a lot of people lost their jobs, including me. I lost my jobs in shipping and logistics. I was in Hong Kong at the time. And then suddenly my suit was taken away. My armor was taken away completely. And then I realized, hey, I have no idea who I am. I have no idea what my path is in life. I have no idea what my purpose is. And at that point was actually the first time in my life that I started connecting with who I really am. And that came through my intuition and my gut feeling and my emotional self. And at that moment, I made a decision, and that decision changed the entire course of my life. And even up until what I do today, and I'm still true to that decision. And I decided at that moment, the decision was that for whatever decision I'm going to make in the future, I'm going to make sure that the decisions are aligned with who I am, not based on the expectations of others. And that is what I have done ever since. And so I went from a corporate expat package, following my purpose and my path in life. And my purpose and my path become with I want to work with people. That's it. I want to work with people, but I have no idea who my audience is going to be or who I'm going to work with. Is that university students? Is that people in companies? Am I a massage therapist, a volleyball coach, a psychotherapist? I had no idea. The only thing I knew was I want to work with people. And that was actually the starting point for me to find my path in life and to find my purpose in life. I started working for a training and coaching company because I could get experience in the training and leadership development industry. Then later on, I saw there's a gap in the industry, and I filled that gap with my brand, The Suited Monk. And I've been helping corporate leaders, expats, and organizations ever since with bridging the gap between that external and internal self, their suit and their monk. That journey also led me to the different relationships that I had, led me to healing myself emotionally, and that led me to a fulfilling life. And that life, that external life, is not built on emptiness. It's built on who I am as a person. And that came from following intuition and my path in life.
I love it how you said you're really following your path and your intuition. This is not something we talk about in, I guess, a logical sense or is in a career progression sense. It's very esoteric almost in the Western world, right? We're always very much just find a job based on your skills and just stay there, that longevity. What's really important to note is that everything happens from following your path, like the love and relationships, your soulmate, the career. And that works well for your career because it's very easy to say, oh, just follow your passions and turn it into a career or try to make money from it. But no one ever really says, follow your passions and your soulmate will be there, which is
Yep.
really the point of the work that I'm doing. That alignment. And you talked about intuition, and it was the same with me. Like I moved to Barcelona, to Spain, from my intuition, and that's how we met. That's where we met. So can you tell us about your intuition about moving and relocating abroad? What led you to that decision?
After 12 years in China, China is a very consuming country, so there's a very high pace in business. And then after 12 years, of course, my energy, my battery was getting lower and lower. And then, of course, I felt like it's time to move on. My time is up here. I've done everything I needed to do. I met the people I had to meet. I had my own company right there, but what's next? And so that's when the intuition came. And then at that time, I published my book, The Suited Monk. And my friend in China told me, he said, hey, Raf, I have a friend from Spain who read your book and he loves it and he wants to translate it into Spanish. I was like, that's amazing. And at the time I was looking for, okay, shall I go back to Europe or shall I go to Australia or America? Because after China, you can live in any other country in the world. And the door of Spain was opening up, even though without me pre-planning it. So I talked to the guy. We had a really good emotional connection on a Zoom call. Then in the next business trip, I went to Belgium. He flew from Barcelona to Brussels. We met in the airport. We chatted for 4 to 5 hours. We had an amazing conversation, a really good
Wow.
connection. Wow, this is it. That it feels really good. And then I checked a bit practically. So from my heart, I checked, oh, this is really great. But then I looked a little bit also practically. Okay, if I move to Barcelona, what are the consequences? Do I need to learn Spanish? How does that work with workshops? How's the economy? Where am I going to live in Barcelona or another place? And so first I followed the intuition. My gut feels like, hey, the doors are opening up here. I follow, let's say, my monk, my words, but then I also look practically, okay, what are the consequences from a family point of view or a relationship point of view? Because my ex-wife was Chinese. How would she fit in, for example, in Europe? She lived overseas before, but again, Europe then is a different place. And so I look always both at the internal and the external point of view when I make changes. You don't need to be naive and just follow your intuition. There is an external world that we have to take care of. So you need to take both things into consideration, follow your intuition first, and then make sure that you can live well in the external world. And to add to that is, if you look at ancient philosophy and you go to philosophers, for example, Confucius used to say, wherever you go with all your heart. Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey. Plato talks about human flourishing and happiness. And so these are concepts that, in my opinion, are forgotten, but they are still relevant today. And we are very caught up in social media, how the world, politics, economy, make money, build a career, become successful, that we lack, not lack, or that we have covered up the emotional and the spiritual self. And to me, that has to flourish again. And also part of your work and big work is actually to raise awareness again. Hey, this is the core. That is the beginning of your operating system. Start with that, reconnect with that. Then you can flourish in the external world. And to me, that is the journey. Start from the inside, then go outwards.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so glad we align on all these things. I guess that was part of my criteria. Part of my values is that my partner needs to be aligned with the kind of work that I do. That was really the number one core priority. And I'm so glad I followed through with that. And that that I didn't realize until doing a little bit more deeper work with my own coach at the time. And it's funny because I tell my story to my audience that I was single for 5 years and why did I wait so long? And I say it's because Raf was married at the time that I was single and
Yep.
kind of had to wait for him. And then really things just came together quite nicely in COVID. So I could never have known that we would have met each other in a country that's
Absolutely.
neither where we grew up. So,
Yep.
what's a piece of advice or that you'd love to leave our listeners some insights, some male masculine insight for women who are trying to find their partner or who have maybe even given up because they're just not finding the right men out there?
Yeah, I want to leave that with a final comment, which is to say, good guys are available because good guys may also break up in their relationship. It's not because they're a bad guy, but because maybe the woman wants to go into a different direction. At that point, she has maybe a different value system. So I was still married at the time before we even knew each other. But then in the end, I got divorced. It was the right thing to do at the time for me and for her. But then you open the new channel. So the, if a good guy is on his real journey, his relationship, let's say, might end as well and become on the market again. It's not that all good guys are taken. And that is a strong belief. Follow your path in life. And if the guy does the same, you will meet. It's almost like the universal law, like attracts like. And if you do the right thing, the right person will come for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like this can give a lot of inner peace and clarity to a lot of women out there who have not found the success on dating apps and agencies and all that online stuff, that huge, bunch of stuff out there that people are telling us to try harder and just get out there. And, what you're saying really is just to follow your path, your purpose, really shed your armor or the stuff that stops you from attracting the right person from your monk, from your soul. And for anyone listening to this, I think our story is a perfect example of that. This true story that we have, that we share, because we want other people to enjoy the same fruits of our journey that has worked so well for us. And if you're an entrepreneur or you're somebody who is not meeting men on your level emotionally, financially, physically, we are called to this higher journey, to look within ourselves, to go on that personal growth journey, because your man is not on those apps. He will be doing the same thing. Your paths will coincide because your soul meeting, your soul mates are meant to be. And we have multiple soulmates, and you'll have your relationship with your soulmate you're meant to have at this time.
Yep. 100%. I couldn't phrase it any better. Yeah, that's it. That's the journey. Yeah, that's the journey.
Yeah.
So the dating apps, they're good for entertainment, to keep you busy, but the
Online
real
shopping.
world, yeah, exactly. It's a bit, yeah, it's online entertainment. And the real work, the hard work, do it internally. It's the work that you will take with you for the rest of your life. Anything that you feel emotionally will benefit you for the rest of your life, even if you're in a relationship or not, because you will always be with you. So the more work you do on the you, the more you will flourish. And then the right person come for sure.
It's like taking the red pill in the Matrix, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Go down a rabbit hole, but you can't unsee what you've seen. So you need to choose that
100%.
decision well and be fully invested in yourself on your journey.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Raf.
Great.
Thank you. Love
We made
you.
it happen.
Yay. We finally made it happen.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested in what Raf does, Suited Monk work, he works mainly with companies, but he also does some coaching. So we're both coaches, my ideal situation. So we'll put his website in the show notes below if you want to check out what he does and contact him and potentially get some coaching. Or if your company is suffering from a lack of communication or employee turnover or things like that, the company's doing well on paper, but employee is not happy, and you're part of the management team or your high level C-suite, please reach out to Raf, the Suited Monk. He does amazing, wonderful things for companies, really turns them around. He has incredible experience since 2010. So he's in a very good hand. So make sure you reach out to him. So thank you everyone for being on our episode. Hope you love this. We'll definitely have Raf back on in future and not too long in between. And we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you.